In the RV life, one of the biggest expenses you're going to deal with is the cost of campgrounds. But there is a way that you can dramatically cut that cost. It's called park hosting. And if you're interested in spending time and volunteering at a state park or a national park, you can cut your expenses for living dramatically as well. In this video, I'm going to get into what a park host does and why we enjoy being park hosts and how it's become a very rewarding part of our RV lifestyle. One quick break in the video here to issue a bit of a disclaimer, and that is I am sharing our experiences and I'm sharing information that we have gathered, but this video is all ours. Nothing in this video is sponsored or endorsed by a state government, a state department, any specific state park. It's all us. It's our opinions, our information. And now back to the video. In our nearly full-time style of RV life, we meet people all over the country, and we tend to get similar questions from folks. One of the first questions we get is, how do we do what we're able to do? How can we travel so much? Are we retired? Are we independently wealthy? The answer to both of those is no. We have shared before that Jessie has a full-time remote job. She has to travel for work periodically, but for the most part, she can set up shop wherever we happen to be and take care of her job duties from there. I do freelance work, also remotely, for various clients. In addition, we supplement covering our travel expenses by park hosting. Traditionally, we've been state park hosts. We may look at doing some national park hosting here in the near future. But typically, starting each January and running for anywhere from 3 to 5 months, we set up camp at one or more parks and serve as park hosts, as volunteers. And for a certain number of hours per week, per site, you get that full hookup RV site in a campground for free. I say free because we have to provide labor. So once we've answered that question for people, almost invariably, the next question is, oh, well, what exactly is a park host? What does a park host do? What a park host does changes from state to state and even from park to park, and it depends on what team you end up on. You might be a campground host where you're literally helping campers as they come in or they are leaving, getting them information, helping them to their sites, whatever needs to be done. We were camp hosts in Utah, and at that campground, the showers were run by quarters. So I think the number one thing we did in that campground was break dollar bills for people so they could take a shower. But traditionally, I have been on the maintenance team at state parks. And there's a lot of different things that entails. Even Jesse will ask me, well, what'd you do in maintenance today? Or what are you going to do in maintenance today? And the answer always is, well, there's a list of things we want to accomplish. And then there's all the stuff that happened overnight that we don't know about yet till we go in the morning. Maybe a tree fell. Maybe there was damage to something. Maybe somebody discovered a problem in a bathroom or whatever, something that needs to be done immediately. It needs to be addressed. And then that long-term project that we had scheduled gets pushed off once again. And I think that's key for why volunteers are so important in state parks, because too many times projects get pushed off. They get put on the back burner. They're important, but they're not important enough to be done quickly when there are things that need to be done. If toilets aren't working properly, if there's a sink that's leaking, if a tree has fallen, if there is debris on a hiking trail that needs to be taken care of, you just never know what you're going to do. And so longer term maintenance projects get put off, but volunteers can help with that. And that's part of what I've been doing at the park we're at right now, is helping them catch up on sometimes small projects, sometimes bigger projects, but ones that kind of get pushed off. This is a pretty typical day. I'm out on the mule, checking the trails, checking the campsites, making sure things look good, see if there's any problems that need to be addressed by the maintenance team. Especially after a busy weekend, you're probably going to find that the fire pits need to be emptied out from all the ash and leftover wood. The grills probably need to be cleaned out. It's just kind of routine maintenance stuff that we do. And then as you're driving around, you're always looking for things. So big branches on the trails maybe that need to be cleared out. Here in particular, we have a trail that's multi-use, and so it's not just about the aesthetics of it looking nicer. There's not big branches all over the trail that people might trip over too, but we get people in here on e-bikes, and I would not want to have some of these branches that I have found down on the ground, have need to go over them or risk getting caught up in the spokes of an e-bike. That could be pretty risky. So we try to watch for that kind of stuff as well. A lot of it is also just being the eyes and ears for the full-time staff here at the park to let them know what's going on and make a note of things that need to be addressed either by us or by others on the team or together as a team. You're part of the team, so you want to keep track of what the team needs to do and help spread the word so that that work can get done. In some parks, you have to clean bathrooms. At this particular park, I've not had to clean bathrooms except for the occasional time when the staff is short. Maybe somebody's got an extra day off for some reason and they need the help. So I'll clean the bathrooms. I've been in other parks where that's been part of the daily routine. You just have to do that. And I believe in the next park we're at, that's going to be part of my daily routine. It's something you just get used to. It's not that big of a deal usually, so I don't mind doing it. In addition to the routine daily and weekly tasks that need to get done, you might find little projects that have to get done, like state park signs that need to be repainted or taking care of picnic tables that have been broken or damaged over time. I helped replace a grill once that had rusted out. You just never know. It's things that the maintenance team has to take care of. And by serving on the maintenance team, I'm there to assist them in any way that I can. Here's another great example of a volunteer project at a state park. As a park guest, are you going to notice that it's a brand new paint job on a gate? I don't know. It's off to the side. You may not even realize there's a gate there right away. But I bet if you saw it when it was all rusty and nasty looking, you'd probably notice that, and it would diminish your opinion of the park. So keep things spruced up. That's a big part of a park volunteer's job. And as a park host, I'm happy to help out with it. Every team at every state park we've ever been at is overworked, underfunded, understaffed. They try, but there's just too much going on. And one of the things you have to remember too is often the work that needs to be done can only be done when the weather's nice. Well, when do people go camping? When do people use day use sections at a state park? When the weather's nice. And you can't go into campgrounds and work on them or campsites and work on them when people are camping there. And you can't be mowing a day use area or swapping out grills or taking care of picnic tables if people are using them. So again, it's a situation where heads butt because situations all are requiring good weather. Whether it's for people to have recreation or it's for the team at a state park to get work done, the weather plays a big role in all of that. Jesse and I have a presentation called Parkhosting 101 that we've been privileged to be asked to present at RV shows. We always share with people some of the basics. That's the whole point of 101. How do you become a park host? What does a park host do? What are some things you should look for that are positives and negatives of being a park host? There are a couple of key things I think you need to consider if you want to be a park host or a campground host at a state park or a national park. One is you got to figure out location. Where do you want to be and when do you want to be there? And those are tied in because we tend to go to places like Texas in the winter because that's when we park host. And we want to be where the weather is nicer than in Michigan in the winter because we're done with cold and snow at this point in our lives. We would much rather be where it's beautiful and sunny much more often. But we have also been hosts in the summertime. We spent a spring and part of a summer in Utah, and we were park hosts, used that as our base camp, and then went and explored the Mighty Five in Utah, and we saw all kinds of other state parks and really beautiful places in the state of Utah. There's actually a Utah playlist that I'll link to in the description below, and you can go see everything that we did while we were there. But you need to think about first, where do you want to be? And that ties in with when are you going to be there? One of the things I've mentioned to people is the way the campgrounds have been booking up so early now and being so full across the country. One way to consider getting into a very popular park, whether that is a state park or a national park, perhaps one of the only ways to really get there and be there for any length of time to enjoy it is to serve as a park host, because then you're living there. And that's the beauty of being a park host. One of them is you get to spend some really good quality time at perhaps a very popular park that many people are, really trying hard to get into and just not having any luck. One of the perks of being a park host at a state park in this case is you basically live where the trails are. So I took off from our campsite this morning and I'm now out enjoying the trails here at Goliad State Park. There's a really nice river trail, runs along the San Antonio River, nice and peaceful back here. And it's a good way to get in some exercise, get some quiet time with nature, and I don't know, just make the most of your time at the state park. And what's nice about it being here where I live while I'm park hosting is that it doesn't matter if there's a bad weather day, I can just wait a day and go enjoy the trails then. Or I can go early like I did today before it gets hot in the afternoon. And that is something that I really enjoy about being a park host. And one of the perks that I often talk about when I tell people why we do this, why we enjoy this lifestyle, and why they might want to consider it. Another key consideration is, what do you want to do as a park host? Some parks are a little more strict. They have a very specific idea of what a park host or a campground host does. Sometimes it depends on what team you're on. Sometimes it depends on what you are comfortable doing. And that's always key. If you're ever asked to do something you're not comfortable with, then you need to say so. You need to speak up for yourself and make sure they understand. And, a team will work with you and they'll have you do something else. But, traditionally, like I mentioned, I go on the maintenance team. But there's also, in addition to maintenance positions, there are customer service positions. Maybe you're going to work in a gift shop. You're going to work at the booth to check in campers. Maybe you are going to serve at a state park that has a historical reenactment of some kind. When we were at LBJ State Park in Fredericksburg, Texas, I was on the maintenance team. There is no campground there. It's a day use only park, but they also have a historic farm that represents what life was like at a German family farm in 1918. That's what Jessie did. She filled in there whenever she could and helped them out as much as she could, and she loved it. That's the kind of work that people like to do when they're volunteering. Sometimes she dressed up like it was 1918 and helped kids learn about what life was like before the grocery store was right down the road and you could go get your food there. She really enjoyed doing that and, kind of living the farm life, milking cows, feeding the animals, cooking on a wood stove. And we know other park hosts that we've met. We actually met at LBJ because they were there to work on the farm, that's all they do. They move around the country and they go from reenactment site to reenactment site or historic site. They're not necessarily doing a reenactment, but they're working at a historic site, often as reenactors. And some people really enjoy doing that. And that's something you could consider doing. And I know that's something we'd like to do more of if we get a chance somewhere along the way, and I'm sure that we will. Maybe your background is in some kind of office work where you can help them with running a store or helping with paperwork. There's just a ton of stuff that can be done at a park that needs to be done that the full-time team just does not have time to accomplish on their own. And then in addition to what you can do, you need to think about how much you can do it. So in Texas, for example, it runs about 24 hours per week per site. I mentioned earlier that I do most of that work because I have a more flexible schedule than Jessie does. She is working full-time, 9 to 5, 8 to 6, 7 to 7, depends on the day in the week. But, I have the time to be able to work outside the trailer and do some work on the ground at the state park. And then I can flex my time and do my work maybe later in the afternoon after my shift is over or at night if I need to. So think about that. How much can you do? If you are a couple, remember, if it's 24 hours per site, maybe you split it and each of you only have to work 12 hours a week and you get a campsite, a full hookup campsite for that. That's really not too bad at all. 12 hours goes by pretty quick when you split it up across several days during a week. We've learned a lot being park hosts, and I think one of the big things we've learned is that we had no idea what park hosts really did. We had a misconception that it was all older, retired people. Nobody that was still working could be a park host. We thought it always had to be couples, and that's not true. Sometimes it can be a solo who's traveling alone, or it could be one part of a couple could do the work. We didn't know how many hours were really involved. We thought it was going to be a lot more, quite honestly. And in some states and at some national parks, there are more hours required per week. And that's something you want to look at if that's really the number of hours you want to put in, or if you want to go somewhere that requires fewer hours. So is park hosting for you? It very well could be. You can do it year round if you find the right place. And maybe you really like winter weather. You could park host somewhere in the winter. They are open at many parks. Maybe you really enjoy heat and you're going to be willing to park host in Texas or Arizona or somewhere that is hot in the summer and they have a hard time finding people to work as hosts because of the heat. But if you enjoy that kind of thing, take advantage of it. Get a free site. Again, free is in quotes because you have to work for it, but it is something that you should consider doing. It is very rewarding. It is a great way to save money in the budget, and it might allow you to get out there and travel now as opposed to waiting until you retire or waiting until you have enough of a nest egg built up that you can quit your work early and hit the road. This is an opportunity to, essentially pay the rent with a little bit of volunteer time, and you feel good doing it at the same time because you're giving back to these state parks that really do need the help. And I have yet to find a team that does not truly appreciate the volunteers and the work that we do, whether it's a lot or a little, if it's a big project or a small project, it's something that we're doing for them and helping them in their day to day work. And that's always really, really appreciated. So consider becoming a park host or a campground host. It might be the answer to a lot of questions you have about how you're going to be able to get out there and travel now and not have to put it off any longer. In the meantime, keep on trekking and we'll see you out there. Maybe we'll even see you as a fellow park host. We provide a lot more in-depth information in our Parkhosting 101 presentation that we do at RV shows. So if you ever see us on the docket, stop in and take a look at our presentation and feel free to ask us any kind of questions. Feel free to post questions in the comments section below, and we try to answer those if we can. I've also put together an ebook that I'm going to link in the description below. It's free. It kind of covers what we cover in our Parkhosting 101 presentation. It's just you're going to have to read it and look at pictures instead of listening to us and seeing our smiling faces. Well, you'll see our smiling faces in the pictures. So again, I'm going to put the link in the description below. Go there, download it, check it out. Let us know what you think. It's free. We're not going to charge you for it. And we hope you appreciate it and we hope you enjoy it.